Depression. What is depression? We hear them talk about clinical depression and other types of depression. I'm depressed, he is depressed, I take to social media and I talk about depression. Am I pretending? Am I seeking attention? What is depression? Today, at Walk Tall with Shiba, we are going to go into detail talking to a psychologist and others about what depression is and how to see depression and how to support depression and how to deal with depression. We're situated here at Solani's Lounge, and this is Walk Tall with Shiba. Can you tell by just them showing up at gym or at CrossFit, can you tell that this one is also going through some mental difficulties based on maybe the way they throw themselves at it to a point of risk of injury, maybe?
I think you can a little bit. If you know the person. If you've seen them over a long period of time, you'll be able to pick up little signs that something's not right. So you might find that they can run for long periods on the treadmill, and then all of a sudden you'll find that they'll only be able to stay on there for maybe 10 minutes, and then they'll go and rather do something else. Then maybe they're not lifting as heavy as they were, they're not pushing as hard. You'll probably find that they're standing around staring out the window when you're used to them not stopping, basically moving from one machine to another.
Okay.
So in that sense, if you pick up on a behavioral change, very much like if you're at home and suddenly your partner is not as talkative.
So they could be giving the silent treatment.
You'll know the difference. Speaking, let the husband part come out for a bit. You'll know the difference because if it's silent treatments, it's not usually silent because there'll be a lot of
yes, that's not silent.
Yeah, but when you'll find that they'll be a little bit more withdrawn, and the same works in the gym. Maybe they'll be there every single day, and then suddenly they'll start skipping days as well. Is also a sign that something's not right.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add to that because we are saying it tongue in cheek, but it's a very significant symptom of someone not being well, someone possibly being depressed. This idea of silent treatment, like it would be more than that. It would be someone isolating themselves and not wanting to engage with anyone, and because depression makes you feel sad and undesirable and you have no energy for anything, you just want to be by yourself, you find that they start to push people away, not because of what Dennis did, not because of what Shiba did, but because I'm feeling this way and I don't want to burden you as my husband, as my child.
Okay. So sometimes it's to save you from the trouble. Okay.
So in an effort for me and you to be okay, I push you away and I just keep to my cocoon and I'm by myself. And then you interpret as that she's moody, I'm not wanted, and you keep away. And in this keeping away, they are getting worse. So it is a very important thing to take notice of. How is this person? Are they as functional as they were in terms of us communicating? Are they spending more time in the bedroom? Are they not watching their favorite shows anymore? What are the changes? And is this now how we are in this house?
I read somewhere, and I don't want to make it look bad, but I read somewhere that women are most likely to suffer from depression than men. What would be the reason? Women talk more, like they talk to their friends a little more than men. Men kind of have that whole I must manage things. Why is it that women are more likely to suffer from depression? If that's the truth anyway.
There's an argument with that, in that women tend to have more health seeking behavior, so they are more likely to go to hospital. So now, if more women are more likely to go to hospital, that's the data that you will have to say, okay, women came here. So if there's 10 people, 7 of those are women attending to the hospital, and you find there's 4 people depressed, chances are those 4 would be the women. So then statistically, it's going to be women are more likely to get depressed than men, because they are the ones who are going to these health services and seeking the help. So you find we have more data on women than we do on men, which will obviously skew things.
Okay.
So there is that, and there's also that, for example, Eswatini is very patriarchal, and like we were saying earlier, there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of homemaking and a lot of you need to attend this and that as a woman. There's a lot of responsibility in terms of being the one who keeps everything in a nice tight ribbon, as opposed to the man who just needs to go out there and then bring us the 10 emalang in home and then we're fine. So there's that side of things. And there's, in as much as women talk more and they engage with other more, but the source of the frustration is often left out and is not engaged. For instance, if Dennis and the wife are having a problem and the 2 of them are not talking, she's going to engage with friends about him.
Yes.
So she might feel better, but she comes back to the source of the problem,
which isn't solved.
Which isn't solved.
Yeah.
So they are living with this, and he's not allowed to be emotional and not be okay. And because you find that this trouble is happening because he's not communicating. He's not.
Yes, because he's being a man and not.
Being a man.
Yeah. All right. Dennis, going to put in some flavor into that, maybe?
I think he's raised an important point. We don't actually think the fact that when I'm not feeling well, I definitely don't go to the hospital. I don't see doctors. I generally self-medicate. But if my wife is not feeling well, she's generally at the hospital trying to check things out.
This is a fact, even for me. Yeah.
So I think it's also part of the, as much as it highlights the fact that statistically that's why we probably see more women being diagnosed, but it's also, I think that's a huge factor in the fact that probably we don't actually see that a lot of our male friends are
going through something.
Yes. And if I don't speak to my male friends as much as I might with female. So you always assume that everything is okay, that if something's going to go wrong, they'll come to you.
Right.
But generally they don't.
Which is something that I think must be something that is addressed, because in our last episode we talked about suicide, and it turned out that men have a higher probability of committing violent suicide, which is something that would come from the fact that they have no one to talk to. Yes, sir.
For me, he's raising an important point that the wife would want to communicate and he'd rather self-medicate. That's a very significant male culture that we have, because we go to these places and the spaces where we are surrounded by our friends, and I have this problem that I want to engage with, but there's no room for that here. You want to talking's for women.
Yes.
You have problems with the wife. We all do. Just have a drink and watch soccer.
Yeah.
That's all we do. But I have this issue that I have deep down inside that I'm not getting addressed. So what happens is I start to medicate more and more and more.
Yeah.
And because this problem is not sorted, it's not going away, an alcoholic is born, a substance abuser is born, you misuse substances because you are trying to cope with this issue that you have going on. So in this spaces where males come together, they are not engaging with emotional issues. They talk about soccer, about basketball, about every other sport that's out there all day, except what's going on with them emotionally. And that's a very male trait, and that is partly why we see more men depressed. And like in yes, you were correct, men are more likely to complete suicides than women, because they use this very violent and lethal means.
Yes. It's a final thing.
It's a final thing, because I feel like I've tried everything. And I often argue against this notion of saying men have no one to talk to. They do.
Right, who?
Everyone does. Like I am saying, we have each other, but we don't open that room for that. We'll talk about every other thing under the sun, except our emotional lives, our mental lives, like what's going on in there.
Thank you very much to the two gentlemen for coming through. This is an ARC Multimedia production of Walk Tall with Shiba. We are on site at the Cigar Lounge at Solani's Lounge in Babane. It has been a very insightful talk. This is Walk Tall with Shiba, the show that seeks to inspire and motivate others. Thank you very much for watching, and please remember to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Walk Tall with Shiba. Like the Facebook page, Walk Tall with Shiba. You may also see some of these postings. They will be on the ARC Multimedia Eswatini page. We are as Solanis, and we have just been talking to Dennis van Reenen and Sfiso Shabangu, the clinical psychologist from Gamanzini. Just before we close, remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. Men, please create a circle and talk your problems out. And to remember, if someone is going through depression, be a supporter, not a fixer. And lastly, if you're going to support, understand that you do not understand. This is Bongani Shiba of Walk Tall with Shiba.